Greetings and welcome to LGR Oddware, where we're taking a look at hardware and software that is odd, forgotten, and obsolete. And this right here is the BTO Limited Plusdeck 2C, a full-on compact cassette tape player deck that goes inside of a 5¼ drive bay from the mid-2000s and is controllable through Windows 98. Yeah, I've been wanting to look at one of these for years, so let's get to it. Alrighty, so it's finally time to check out the Plusdeck 2C, a straight-up audio cassette player for desktop PCs. It fits into a free 5¼ drive bay and offers users the ability to play back and directly capture tapes to digital files, including MP3s. Ooh! As long as you had a free drive slot and a Windows 95 or higher PC with a serial port and a sound card, the Plusdeck 2C was pretty much good to go. It was manufactured by BTO Company Limited, with BTO standing for Beyond the Ordinary, a South Korean company founded back in the year 2000 as referenced on the box. As far as I know, the Plusdeck was their only product, or series of products, beginning with the original Plusdeck 5¼ cassette deck thing, launching in December of 2001. This first model, costing $150, was marketed as a device to conveniently record MP3s and online audio to cassette tape using a PC. Really geared toward folks holding off on CDRs and such, and still using cassettes in their vehicles, stereos, and so on. And it came with software for Windows 95 and 98 that made use of Nullsoft's Winamp to function. I'm assuming it was a plugin. And this was followed up by the Plusdeck 2 in late 2003, a soft relaunch of sorts with updated packaging and firmware at the same $150 price, along with new software compatible with Windows XP looking decidedly less Winampy. Finally, that brings us to 2006 with the Plusdeck 2C here, with a lower $130 price tag and a new cassette mechanism and feature set. Although by new, I don't necessarily mean better, since the cost-reduced 2C lacks the ability to record from PC to tape. Looking at the first two models, you'll see a red record button, whereas the 2C has it replaced with an eject button instead, with no record option at all. And last to be released was the Plusdeck EX, which continued to offer cassette playback and recording, just no longer requiring a PC. This was a standalone audio system in a box. But yeah, it's the 2C that seems to have achieved the most success from what I can tell. After all, how many people really needed to record mixtapes on a PC in 2006? A cheaper playback-only option like this made sense, especially with the growing popularity of USB archiving solutions back then, USB record players, USB cassette decks, and so on. A lot of stuff distributed by Ion in particular, and these things were sold practically everywhere by the late aughts. So I guess the thinking was, why not skip all that and just stick the whole dang mechanism inside a PC? For a certain customer, this made legit sense. And if nothing else, it was a fun, gimmicky PC mod, often seen on sites like Firebox and ThinkGeek. Yeah, the Plusdeck is prime mid-2000s drive bay oddware, right up there with graphic equalizers, speakers, cigarette lighters, and the like, but with more of a real-world purpose than many of those. Still silly, but at least it could be usefully silly. Now, before we get this unboxed and set up, let me give a big thanks to LGR viewer Jesse for sending this in. So, at long last, let's get this sucker open and see how it works. Alright, so to my knowledge, this one's never been used, but it wasn't 100% complete inside either, missing the original packing materials and some cabling. The majority is still here though, beginning with the instruction manual. There are 62 pages of loosely translated documentation covering the initial setup and all the ins and outs of configuring and using the software on a Windows PC. But yeah, the English isn't always the clearest to decipher, making certain technical details questionable, so thankfully it's not too complicated to figure out by trial and error. Next is the software package on CD-ROM, the final release that I'm aware of, version 3.25C. We also have this little interface board, which installs in an open PCI bracket and provides the interface between the Plusdeck, your sound card, and a serial port. Then there's this ribbon cable with a 20-pin connector on either side, Now, this passes both analog audio and serial data between the PlusDeck drive and the rear interface bracket. And yes, the PlusDeck is controlled via serial with this 9-pin adapter provided to connect the rear bracket to your PC. Then of course we have the PlusDeck 2C itself, roughly the same size as a standard optical drive or half-height 5¼ floppy drive. Around back is the 20-pin ribbon cable connector and power, and on front are all the controls, with both side play buttons, pause, stop, headphone volume, eject, rewind, and fast forward, headphone out and microphone in, and this bulbous black circle that shows status LEDs while in use, and is also an eject button. Yeah, since the old record button has been replaced with another eject switch on this model, this is simply a redundant holdover. And that's all you get. It's a basic tape player for basic usage, basically meant to play basic Type 1 ferric cassettes. I mean, it does rewind and have auto stop, but there's no tape counter, no chrome or metal tape options, no noise reduction, no EQ or frequency filters, no speed or azimuth adjustments. The PlusDeck 2C plays tapes in a deck, plus nothing more. Well, except for the software side of things, so let's get it installed. I'll be plopping it into this generic 233 MHz Pentium 2 machine running Windows 98. A bit old for a device from 2006, sure, but is originally from 2001, and I actually don't have a Windows XP machine in a beige or white case, so I thought this looked more suitable. And yep, there's really nothing complicated going on here. The ribbon cable passes everything through to that rear bracket, and the serial cable connects the drive to the PC's COM port. The rest is all audio pass-through stuff, and since the original 3.5mm audio cables were missing, I'm using some of my own. The most basic configuration requires the output of the PlusDeck to be connected to the line-in of your sound card, and that's it. The rest is handled through serial. But I wanted the whole shebang, what the manual calls advanced connection. And this needs 3 cables, connecting not only the tape audio out, but also the system output and front mic and headphone jacks. It's not hooked up properly here, by the way. I fixed it later by experimentation, since again, the manual gets confusing. And with that, it's time to try out the odd PlusDeck 2C and see what it's like to play compact cassettes on Windows 98. Okay, PlusDeck fully installed, and the software as well. Although amusingly, here, check this out. As I was trying to get it going, I saw that the auto run just goes nowhere, throwing up an error saying it can't find the file. And then I quickly realized why. Yeah, it's looking for the right file name almost, but without the .exe on the end. So it doesn't know where the executable is. Anyway, all you do is open that up manually and it installed just fine. It also installed this WavePad program alongside it, which is just a simple audio editor, and it doesn't actually show up anywhere in your device manager that I see. It's just a thing on the serial port, and the only thing that is really seeing it is this PlusDeck 2 software. So let's go ahead and get that open. And the way this works, I wasn't really sure how this is going to work, but yeah, it's really using nothing more than the line in of the sound card to record tape, same as you would any audio device. Truly nothing that you couldn't do already with any random tape deck plugged in directly, except for you have all of these controls here that allow you to control the tape deck through Windows, which is pretty neat. So let's get the go-to for YouTubers testing tape decks everywhere. Anders Inge Jensen's Retro Grooves, this is volume 3. And yeah, that just inserts down here. I love the way that it works just like a car. And now we can either press the physical controls on the 5¼ drive itself, or control things through Windows, which I find far more interesting. And there we go. We have a cassette deck in a 5¼ drive bay. And yeah, we can control it all here through the software. So there's A side play, we have B side play over here. That just switches to the other side, of course. Back to the A side. Now we have a rewind, Fast forward. Doesn't want to let me click that for some reason. There, come on now. Yeah, there we go. Fast forward. A little weird clicking that. Anyway, stop, pause, eject. Yeah. So it's awesome. I actually really like how addictive it is to control a tape drive or a tape deck, whatever. I wanted to call it a drive because it's like it's in a drive bay, but it's not. A tape drive is kind of a different thing entirely with computers in mind. But anyway, yeah, other controls, one side, both sides, continuous play, your different things here. These really though, the file settings, tape to digital file and PC to digital file are the main things that really give this purpose. So you can choose if you want to automate it a bit, having different sides or all the sides play, just kind of have it go through, only recording certain amounts of time. The type of file that it saves to can just be uncompressed waves or compressed MP3s all the way down to 8 kbps, ridiculous, but 256 highest. And then, yeah, whether you want it to be all one big file or it can try to divide up the files whenever it senses things that aren't music, just bits of silence. So let's just do the MP3 and do a conversion real quick. Okay, now we hit stop, and since we had it setting to convert to MP3, that's what it's going to do. It's a WAV file at first, and then okay, you couldn't actually see it. It was behind the window, but it saves it as a WAV file, then converts it to an MP3. So there's something wrong with that. It's very clicky, crumply sounding. I cannot get this thing to work no matter what I try in terms of actually capturing audio, recording, saving, whatever you want to call it. So even just setting it straight up to a WAV file here, let's do that. Okay, and just saved it right here. There's a bunch of clicking and popping and just it doesn't seem to matter what player, media player, Winamp, this thing that it came with, just no. It's always just popping and clicking. However, if we just record it through here, just normal line in recording, then I'll have to physically press play down here. Obviously you can't control it with this anymore, but the sound is fine now. So there's something just clearly wrong with the PlusDeck 2 software itself, because recording with any other program, they're all perfectly fine. It totally defeats the point of this device just about entirely, because why don't you just get another cassette deck, like an external, any random cassette deck, plug it into the line in of your sound card and record it, because that's what I have to do here effectively, because these files are just not working through the PlusDeck 2 software itself. And that sucks, because I really like controlling it with this. Yeah, I love that. That's great. Software controlled cassette player, but it also has this PC to digital file thing, and this records anything that's playing on your computer. And let's just try that. Okay, and now we got a file there. It's the same problem. So whatever is going on with this program, I don't know, but it breaks the recordings of anything that it tries to record. Yeah, whatever though. I mean, it clearly works because I've seen it work in other videos. It could just be the system itself. It could be the operating system. Maybe this just works better with XP, even though the manual says Windows 98 is fine and the system requirements, the specs are within spec here. It records using any other program. Wish it worked in this exact case, but it doesn't. Oh well. Although speaking of situations where it does work, RMC The Cave, yeah, Neil had a video on this a couple years ago or something and showed it working just fine on his machine there. and also showed that it was good enough in terms of audio quality to actually back up, record cassette games for systems like the ZX Spectrum and whatnot, so that's good to know. But yeah, let me go ahead and just give you a direct recording of one of the songs on Retro Grooves here, so you can hear the quality yourself, at least as much as you can get here on YouTube. Yeah, it's not bad if you ask me. No noise reduction, no fancy tape types that it really supports, but for simple cassette recording, it does just fine. And it is in stereo, so that's good. Really, the last thing I want to look at here before we end this video is inside the mechanism itself. I'm just curious what it uses. Obviously, so many of these devices used a Tanishin mechanism, those made from like the mid-80s to the late 2000s, and they've been cloned ever since. You still see them all the time, but I'm not so sure what's in here because most of those that I've seen in cheap tape decks don't have the features you see here, like the motorized tape loading and ejecting, the full logic controls, even rewind. The ones you see normally from this era or even today are very manual, much cheaper. So yeah, let's just open this up and see what's in there. Ooh. Well, here is the inside of the thing. I see that it does have a date code actually of late 2005. Everything I've read seems to suggest that it didn't actually launch until the beginning of 2006, at least here in the US, so I'm kind of sticking with the 2006 date, but could be late 05. It's pretty tidy in here. Actually, this reminds me of the inside of mini disk drive for PC I have on one of my Sony Vaio machines, but of course it's all cassette tape mechanism instead of mini disc. I see a Mabuchi motor right there, but I don't actually see any markings really on the cassette mechanism itself letting me know what it is. Might have to look underneath it. Got this chip right here that looks important, probably handles the majority of all the serial stuff. All right, let's try to see if we can get the actual mechanism out of there too. All right, there is the main PCB itself, driving everything on the computer and audio side. Neat. As for the cassette mech, well, this doesn't actually tell me a whole lot, but perhaps it will to somebody. You can see all the belts right there, and thankfully they are still nice and intact. So that's nice, but those will perish eventually. I mean, it really does look like a car stereo cassette deck. I mean, it's gotta be what it is. And the fact that it's also, lacking any kind of record or erase head at all that I can tell, kind of matches up with that. There's a little close up there of the stereo playback head, and yeah, that's the only one that's in there. That's all it needs, and simpler than the earlier models which had recording functionality. Well, this is interesting, although I still don't know who exactly manufactured this mechanism. I mean, it could be, there were other cassette mechanism manufacturers going at that point, I think, in 2005, 2006. If you know any exact information about this particular tape mech, put it in the comments, I'd be curious. But yeah, I'm just glad it works. Well, I suppose that's it for the BTO Limited Plusdeck 2C. I quite like this thing. As limited as it is in terms of a cassette deck. Not having record is kind of a bummer. I would like to try one of the older ones, and just having the software not quite work with my system, that sucks too, but it's probably just the system. I know it works. I've seen other versions or other systems run this just fine. The fact that it works as well as it does, even just using this as a standalone cassette thing for archiving certain tapes really quickly, if it's set up in a machine, yeah, it's oddly useful. I could see myself continuing to use this. It's a little more convenient as long as it's installed in something already than whipping out a full-sized vintage cassette deck or something. I don't know. I mean, I always have one of those set up too, but I'm trying to convince myself to use this more, which is not something that happens very often on Oddware. Yeah, this thing is just neat. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look at it with me. And if you did enjoy this episode of Oddware, do check out some of the ones I've done in the past. I think you'll find those interesting as well. And if nothing else, do stick around for more LGR things of all types coming up here soon on this very channel. And as always, thanks for watching.